The two middle-aged men targeted by Duan Ling Tian no longer dared to hesitate. They hurriedly aimed the spouts of their wine pots at their mouths. Then, they both looked up and began pouring the wine into their mouths, gulping it down fiercely, one mouthful after another. In an instant, the green-robed middle-aged man's face turned crimson, while the blue-robed middle-aged man's face seemed to be covered in a layer of frost. Their pupils involuntarily constricted, yet they continued to swallow the wine from their pots, not daring to show any hesitation. Finally, the green-robed middle-aged man was the first to finish a pot of blazing fire wine. After a mournful cry, he hastily dropped the empty pot, clutching his throat tightly, feeling as if a ball of fire was burning within him. Not only that, the scorching heat emanating from his meridians and internal organs throughout his body caused him to tremble violently at the same time. He let out a low roar and spat out a mouthful of clotted blood with a puff sound. The blood was mixed with a scorching aura, making it a fearsome sight. The other blue-robed middle-aged man shivered as if he had fallen into an ice cave. The moment he took the wine pot away from his mouth, he instinctively spat out a mouthful of clotted blood, then promptly fainted. 1 pot of blazing fire wine and 1 pot of ice fire wine, even ordinary void-prying stage powerhouses would not dare to drink them in such a manner. As mere 7th level void initiation stage martial artists, they naturally couldn't withstand it. Get lost. Duan Ling Tian cast a cold glance at the green-robed middle-aged man, then returned to his seat. The green-robed middle-aged man dared not hesitate. Ignoring his severe internal injuries, he frantically hoisted his companion and fled the 7th floor of the Ice Fire Tower, escaping in a panicked this moment. The 7th floor of the Ice Fire Tower fell into a dead silence. Most people's gazes, when they fell upon Duan Ling Tian, were vaguely tinged with a hint of fear. Tian Wu, if I'm not mistaken, the wine on the 9th floor of the Ice Fire Tower should be the best in the entire tower, right? Duan Ling Tian looked at Feng Tian Wu, who had not yet recovered, and asked with a smile. Hearing Duan Ling Tian's question, Feng Tian Wu finally snapped back to reality and responded, I want to try it. Duan Ling Tian said with a smile. Feng Tian Wu was startled for a moment, then smiled. Then let's go up and see. Immediately after, the two rose from their seats and ascended the stairs leading to the 8th and 9th floors of the Ice Fire Tower, heading upwards. And now, the group of drinkers on the 7th floor of the Ice Fire Tower were not surprised, since that purple-clad youth could drink the mixed, blazing fire wine and ice-cold wine in one go without any harm. His cultivation was clearly profound. He was very likely a void-prying stage powerhouse. In their opinion, a void initiation stage martial artist, even a 9th level void initiation stage, could not possibly drink blazing fire wine and ice-cold wine in that manner without any harm. However, they didn't know that the reason Duan Ling Tian dared to drink it that way was entirely due to a special method from the Reincarnation Martial Emperor's memories. That method, while seemingly simple, was extremely difficult to master and use effectively. Tian Wu, have you been to the 9th floor of the Ice Fire Tower? Duan Ling Tian asked. Feng Tian Wu nodded lightly. When I first came to the Great Ming Kingdom, my father took me there. However, my cultivation was low at the time, so I only watched him drink the wine there. Duan Ling Tian nodded. As someone who had integrated the memories of the Reincarnation Martial Emperor, he naturally knew that some special wines were not for just anyone to drink, leaving aside everything else. Just the blazing fire wine and ice-cold wine he had just drunk on the 7th floor. If a martial artist who hadn't entered the void gaze stage consumed them, they would surely die. Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tian Wu ascended to the 8th floor, causing the inscription array at the staircase entrance to emit 2 crisp sounds, instantly petrifying the 2 old men guarding there. They are both 8th level void initiation stage martial artists. The 2 old men couldn't help but gasp. Clearly, Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tian Wu had startled them. However, they didn't know that after Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tian Wu ascended to the 8th floor, they didn't linger but went straight towards the 9th floor of the Ice Fire Tower. Only one old man stood at the entrance to the 9th floor staircase. His originally calm face showed a slight change when he saw Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tian Wu, two younglings. If you wish to ascend to the ninth floor, go find your elders to accompany you. The old man spoke slowly. Clearly, he did not believe that either Duan Ling Tian or Feng Tian Wu was a ninth-level void initiation stage martial artist. They were simply too young, and to ascend to the ninth floor of the Ice Fire Tower, ninth-level void initiation stage, was a threshold. Thank you for the reminder, senior. However, there's no need for that at all. Duan Ling Tian took the lead, stepping ahead of Feng Tian Wu, and passed through the staircase entrance to the ninth floor. A crisp sound rang out. The old man's expression instantly froze. Tian Wu. After passing through the inscription array, Duan Ling Tian turned around and greeted Feng Tian Wu with a smile. In his opinion, he already had the qualifications to ascend to the ninth floor. So even if Feng Tian Wu couldn't pass through the inscription array, it didn't matter. He could take her in. However, very quickly, Duan Ling Tian's smile also froze. A crisp sound entered Duan Ling Tian's ears, causing a look of surprise to appear on his face. Tian Wu, you've broken through. Duan Ling Tian had never expected that Feng Tian Wu had already broken through to the ninth-level void initiation stage. I broke through a while ago. Feng Tian Wu smiled slightly. Big brother Duan, let's go in. Where? Where did these two little monsters come from? The old man turned his head, his slightly dazed gaze fixed on the receding figures of Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tian Wu. Muttering to himself that this moment, Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tian Wu entered the main hall of the ninth floor of the Ice Fire Tower. The ninth floor, being the highest floor of the Ice Fire Tower, had very few people currently sitting and drinking, no more than 20 in total. And among these people, more than half were young men and women. Of course, these young talents were gathered around 3 tables, clearly indicating that most of them were brought up by other ninth-level void initiation stage martial artists. The appearance of Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tian Wu initially went unnoticed by many. It wasn't until a young man in brocade clothes casually caught sight of Feng Tian Wu and exclaimed, "What a beautiful woman!" that others noticed Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tian Wu. How did they get up here? For a moment, many couldn't help but feel somewhat surprised. It was almost impossible for them to believe that this young couple possessed the strength to ascend to the ninth floor of the Ice Fire Tower. Simply because they were too young, their elders must have brought them up and then left. Someone couldn't help but speculate, and this person's speculation was accepted by most. Duan Ling Tian naturally heard these words but didn't pay them any mind. In his opinion, whether he ascended to the ninth floor of the Ice Fire Tower by his own true abilities or not, it had nothing to do with anyone else. The wine tables on the ninth floor of the Ice Fire Tower are indeed a bit larger. Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tian Wu walked towards a wine table. Before they even sat down, Duan Ling Tian's pupils had already constricted. Heavens! What did he see? He saw a large, circular groove in the center of the wine table, leaving the middle empty. These, surely they're not all for placing primeval stones, are they? Duan Ling Tian's mouth twitched. Fill the grooves on this table. It would require at least 100 mid-grade primeval stones. When Duan Ling Tian sat down and saw Feng Tian Wu take out a pile of mid-grade primeval stones and place them in the groove, a wry smile couldn't help but appear on his face. I really didn't expect the wine on this ninth floor to be so expensive. Tian Wu, this place needs at least 100 mid-grade primeval stones, right? Exactly 99. Feng Tian Wu said. 99. Duan Ling Tian's heart trembled slightly. 99 mid-grade primeval stones were equivalent to nearly 10,000 low-grade primeval stones. The wine at this Ice Fire Tower was practically robbing money. No, it was robbing primeval stones. Whoosh. As Feng Tian Wu placed the 99 mid-grade primeval stones, the inscription array in the wine table activated. Soon, a light shield slowly appeared. It was still half red and half blue. Feng Tian Wu's hand pressed on the red half of the light shield. Immediately, a wine tray carrying a pot of wine and 3 wine cups appeared before Duan Ling Tian's eyes. It actually comes with 3 wine cups here. Duan Ling Tian raised an eyebrow. He remembered that on the 7th floor of the Ice Fire Tower, Each pot of wine only came with one cup to in other words, if several people came to drink together, they would need to buy several more pots of wine. Duan Ling Tian picked up 2 wine cups and placed them in front of himself and Feng Tian Wu, respectively. Next, he began to pour the wine. When he saw the wine, red like blood, pouring into the cup, his eyes couldn't help but light up. Crimson allure? At the same time, a wisp of wine aroma wafted into Duan Ling Tian's nose, causing the true energy within his body to surge, on the verge of bursting forth. Crimson allure truly lived up to its name. Big brother Duan, you recognize this wine. Feng Tian Wu, who was about to introduce it to Duan Ling Tian, couldn't help but be stunned, asking in surprise. Duan Ling Tian nodded. Feng Tian Wu's autumn eyes flickered. She suddenly felt that this big brother Duan was becoming more and more unfamiliar. How many secrets did big brother Duan still hold? Her heart was filled with curiosity about this. Some say that when a woman develops curiosity about a man, it is often the beginning of stepping into an abyss. If I'm not mistaken, the other kind of wine should be blue serenade? Duan Ling Tian said with a smile. Big brother Duan, where did you hear about these 2 wines? Did you perhaps drink them before? Hearing Duan Ling Tian even mention the other wine on the 9th floor of the Icefire Tower, Feng Tian Wu was first startled, then unable to contain her curiosity. She couldn't help but ask that as far as she knew. Even throughout the entire Great Han Dynasty, there were no wines like blazing fire wine and ice-cold wine for sale, let alone crimson allure and blue serenade. I accidentally saw it in an ancient text once. Duan Ling Tian casually offered an excuse that he couldn't possibly tell Feng Tian Wu that he knew about these 2 wines because he possessed the memories of a powerful martial emperor. Could he? Asterisk whether it was Bloody Charm or Blue Love. The reincarnation martial emperor's memories contained records of both. These were 2 types of wine considered good, even in the outer realm. First, Bloody Charm could be said to be an upgraded version of blazing fire wine, with medicinal effects and taste far superior to blazing fire wine. As for Blue Love, it was an upgraded version of ice wine. Bloody Charm and Blue Love cannot be drunk the same way as before. The reincarnation martial emperor's method only applies to the relatively lower grade, blazing fire wine and ice wine. Duan Ling Tian thought to himself, hearing Duan Ling Tian's explanation. Feng Tian Wu didn't doubt him. She picked up her wine glass and smiled at Duan Ling Tian. Brother Duan, try this wine and see how it differs from blazing fire wine. All right, Duan Ling Tian responded, picked up his wine glass, and took a sip. A scorching sensation spread through his mouth, then throughout his entire body, making him feel hot all over. And the origin energy within him continuously surged. Bloody Charm truly lives up to its name. Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but sigh in admiration. Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tian Wu quietly drank wine here, unaware that they had already become the topic of discussion for the 3 tables of young men and women. Have you seen them before? A young man asked. No, everyone else shook their heads. To be honest, that woman is really beautiful. Much prettier than the concubines in my house. And that figure, TSK, truly drool-worthy. A young man with a somewhat lewd appearance chuckled, his eyes filled with lust. Dead monkey, I want this woman. Just then, the white-robed young man sitting opposite the lewd young man said indifferently. The white-robed young man sat there, subtly exuding an air of authority, clearly from an extraordinary background. The lewd young man's expression froze upon hearing this. Then he quickly forced a fawning smile. Since the 3rd prince desires her, I naturally wouldn't dare to be presumptuous. 3rd prince, shall I invite her over for you? The white-robed young man nodded approvingly, a fervent look in his eyes. Do not alarm the beauty, or I will hold you accountable. Yes, yes. The lewd young man hurriedly nodded, then rose from his seat and walked towards Feng Tian Wu.at this moment. Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tian Wu had just finished a bottle of Bloody Charm and bought a bottle of Blue Love. After each taking a sip, they noticed the lewd young man approaching. Duan Ling Tian's expression remained unchanged. He calmly took another sip of the Blue Love, feeling the refreshing coolness spread throughout his body, and felt utterly invigorated. Good wine. Feng Tianwu's delicate brows furrowed slightly, then relaxed. She also took a sip of blue love, then gently closed her eyes, savoring the pleasure of the moment. Miss, the third prince would like to invite you to sit with him. The lewd young man looked at Feng Tianwu, forcing a smile that was uglier than a cry. He then glanced back at the white-robed young man, as if gesturing for Feng Tianwu to look over. And when the white-robed young man noticed the lewd young man's action, he also looked over with a smile. However, his smile quickly froze. Seeing the white-robed young man's expression, the lewd young man's face changed slightly. He turned back and realized that Feng Tianwu hadn't paid him any attention at all. Miss, I am speaking to you. The lewd young man took a deep breath, trying to suppress the anger in his heart that I in front of the third prince. He dared not act presumptuously, but these two young men and women, whom he had never seen in the capital of the Daming dynasty, dared to give him attitude. If it weren't for the fact that this woman was someone the third prince fancied, he would have already exploded. Unfortunately, Feng Tianwu still ignored him. Just then, a young man couldn't help but laugh. Monkey, it seems your status as young master of the Ho family isn't all that impressive. The third prince is still waiting for you. If you need help, just say so. Monkey, got rejected, didn't you? And here you're always boasting about how amazing you are. But it turns out you're only good with your mouth. Monkey, if it's really not working out, just come back. You can afford to lose face, but the third prince cannot. One after another, the young men and women couldn't help but mock the lewd young man. The lewd young man took a deep breath, a layer of frost covering his face, and a fierce glint in his eyes. Although he knew his companions were just joking and not truly targeting him, he still felt humiliated. The lewd young man's eyes flashed with a fierce light as he glared at Feng Tianwu, using origin energy to transmit his voice and curse. You slut. It's your good fortune that the third prince fancies you. Don't be ungrateful. If you don't come with me to serve the third prince today, Unfortunately, the lewd young man's origin energy voice transmission was ultimately left unfinished. Slap. A loud slap echoed, and the lewd young man's head snapped to the side. A crimson palm print appearing on his face, this moment. Feng Tianwu glared at the lewd young man. Her beautiful face covered in frost. One slap plunged the 9th floor of the Icefire Tower into a dead silence. The lewd young man was stunned. And so were his companions. The other middle-aged and elderly wine drinkers were also stunned as for Duan Ling Tian. His eyes glinted coldly as he stared intently at the lewd young man. He knew in his heart that this lewd young man must have said something to Tianwu through origin energy voice transmission, enraging her. Otherwise, Tianwu wouldn't be so angry. Soon, the silent atmosphere was broken by the laughter of some of the lewd young man's companions. Monkey, did you say something you shouldn't have to that girl? The third prince asked you to invite her. How did you manage to anger her instead? Exactly. You can't even handle such a simple task. How can you still claim to be a friend of the third prince? The mocking laughter from his companions reached the stunned lewd young man's ears, making him fully regain his senses. You slut, you dare hit me? The lewd young man's eyes widened. He raised his hand and slapped it towards Feng Tianwu. What a joke. Even his parents had never hit him in his life. Now, to be hit by a woman, how could he possibly swallow this indignity? Facing the lewd young man's incoming slap, Feng Tianwu showed disdain. The speed of his attack, in her eyes, was pitifully slow. Just as she was about to make a move, she seemed to sense something and lowered her raised hand, only because someone else had acted before her, causing a hint of happiness to flash in her eyes. Slap. Duan Ling Tian's hand, as if divinely aided, easily caught the lewd young man's hand that was swinging towards Feng Tianwu. Gripping it tightly, his pair of icy eyes stared directly at the lewd young man. The lewd young man's face changed drastically. He tried to break free, but found that this purple-robed young man, who was much younger than him, possessed astonishing strength. Even with all his might, he couldn't break free. You brat, you're asking for death. Immediately, the lewd young man roared, forming a fist with his other hand and punching it towards Duan Ling Tian. Whoosh. Asterisk as the punch was thrown, the origin energy on his fist surged, and his profundity followed like a shadow, like a rapidly launched cannonball, stirring up a piercing sonic boom at the same time. Above the lewd young man's head, the power of heaven and earth fluctuated, and a heaven and earth phenomenon gathered and formed. First, 10 ancient horned dragon phantoms appeared, followed by 7 more ancient horned dragon phantoms. 7th level void prying stage. 7th level low-grade profundity. Duan Ling Tian moved again, instantly retracting the hand that was gripping his opponent. Then, at a tricky angle, he swiftly grabbed the incoming fist. Crack. Ah! The crisp sound of bones breaking, accompanied by a piercing scream, followed. After Duan Ling Tian crushed his fist, the lewd young man was pushed away, crashing heavily to the ground and rolling clumsily. Swish, 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 swish. Almost at the moment the lewd young man's fist was crushed, and he was pushed away by Duan Ling Tian. His group of companions, who had initially been mocking him, all changed their expressions, except for the white-robed young man, who was the third prince and remained seated. The other young men and women all rose from their seats. Their gazes towards Duan Ling Tian were filled with ill will. Seeing their actions, Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but be surprised that weren't these people just mocking that lewd young man? Why did they suddenly seem so concerned about him now? How could Duan Ling Tian know that these people had been mocking the lewd young man because they were familiar with him, joking with him, and wanted to see him make a fool of himself? But now that the lewd young man was seriously injured, as his companions, they naturally had to stand up for him. Dead monkey, are you all right? A young man knelt down. After examining the lewd young man's injuries, he couldn't help but gasp, then angrily looked at Duan Ling Tian. Your Excellency, what a vicious method. Do you know who he is? What's wrong? Immediately, the other young men and women looked at this young man. Monkey's hand, his tendons and meridians are shattered, completely crippled. Even with a grade 3 rejuvenation pill, it might be beyond help. The young man said in a deep voice. What? Instantly, except for the white-robed young man who raised an eyebrow and gave Duan Ling Tian a deep look, the lewd young man's other companions all changed their expressions. Brat, you're so ruthless. Brat, today, unless you leave behind an arm and a leg. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving. That's right, leave an arm and a leg. 10 young men and women surrounded Duan Ling Tian's table, each glaring at him menacingly, as if afraid he would escape. I don't want his arm and leg. Just then, the lewd young man, after taking a healing pill, endured the severe pain and stepped forward, his gaze cold as he stared at Duan Ling Tian. I want him dead. If I don't kill him, I, Ho Jun, swear I am not human. An arm and a leg? Duan Ling Tian's gaze was incredibly calm. He swept his eyes over the 10 young men and women, finally resting them on the lewd young man. You swear you're not human if you don't kill me? It seems you don't want to be human anymore. It seems you don't want to be human anymore. Duan Ling Tian's brief words caused the 11 young men and women, including Ho Jun, to change their expressions, all infuriated by Duan Ling Tian. Let's go together, someone suddenly shouted, and the group of young men and women, with a tacit understanding, rushed towards Duan Ling Tian. For a moment, explosions of air resounded one after another, continuously, above the void. Countless ancient horned dragon phantoms condensed into form, their aura fierce. Duan Ling Tian's gaze was calm. Facing the young men and women attacking from all directions, his eyes suddenly narrowed, and a faint glow appeared within them. Thousand illusions. In an instant, Duan Ling Tian unleashed his exclusive soul-skilled an illusionary space appeared out of nowhere, covering an area of over 10 meters with Duan Ling Tian at its center. Although it also enveloped Feng Tianwu, it did not target her. Therefore, Feng Tianwu was not affected. Immediately after, an incredible scene unfolded. The group of young men and women, who were originally rushing towards Duan Ling Tian, suddenly turned around and began fighting among themselves just as they were about to reach him. Brat, I want you dead. Ho Jun roared, punching with his other good hand, hitting one of his companions and injuring him. Bang. Immediately after, Ho Jun was also hit by someone. Bang. 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 The chaotic battle continued, in full swing. Tian Wu. Let's continue. Duan Ling Tian completely ignored the 11 young men and women who were fighting, raised his wine glass, and said to Feng Tianwu. Feng Tianwu, however, had long been startled by the scene before her. What exactly did Big Brother Duan do? She was completely bewildered. The scene before her, while shocking, also sent shivers down her spine, as it was truly too bizarre. This situation feels similar to when Big Brother Duan defeated Bai Hao back then. Feng Tianwu couldn't help but recall the scene she witnessed during the Dynasty Martial competition in the Han Dynasty at that time. When Duan Ling Tian defeated Bai Hao, the situation was similarly strange. Not just Feng Tianwu, but a group of middle-aged and elderly wine drinkers on the 9th floor of the Ice and Fire Tower were also dumbfounded. What kind of show were these? Little ancestors, who usually dominated the capital of the Daming dynasty, putting on now? Even the third prince's expression was incredibly solemn at this moment, his brows filled with apprehension. Who exactly is he? Soon, the third prince rose from his seat. He didn't leave the 9th floor of the Ice and Fire Tower, but walked further inside. Inside the 9th floor of the Ice and Fire Tower, there was a spacious private room, usually used by the highest-ranking members of the Zhao family for their own use and to entertain guests. Ouch! Ah! Wah wah! Screams of agony echoed one after another. Before long, only one of the 11 young men and women remained standing. The others sprawled haphazardly on the ground. Duan Ling Tian raised an eyebrow, the faint glow in the depths of his eyes receding as he withdrew his soul skill that in an instant. The illusionary space shattered. What's going on? After the illusionary space disappeared, the group of young men and women lying on the ground were completely stunned when they saw Duan Ling Tian perfectly fine. Didn't I knock him down? I clearly punched him in the face and turned him into a pig's head. Huang Chuiyu, how did you become a pig's head? After exchanging bewildered glances, the group of young men and women finally realized a problem. That was, the one they had injured just now was not Duan Ling Tian, but their own companions. But why did such a thing happen? Evil magic. He knows evil magic. Someone shouted, though it was unclear who. Immediately, the group of young men and women's expressions changed, and when they looked at Duan Ling Tian again, their eyes were filled with terror. The unknown is undoubtedly the most frightening. Just now, they hadn't even realized what was happening before they were directly caught in the opponent's evil magic. Do you still want one of my hands and one of my legs? Duan Ling Tian casually glanced at the group of people before him and slowly asked, upon hearing this. The latter exchanged glances and all lowered their heads in shame, as many of them couldn't even deal with a young punk who looked only about 25 years old. They had truly disgraced themselves. Your name is Ho Jun, right? Duan Ling Tian's gaze fell on the wretched young man whose hand he had crippled. The wretched young man's face changed drastically when he saw Duan Ling Tian staring at him. He shrank back a little, afraid. What do you want to do? Let me tell you, I'm the son of the Ho family patriarch. If you dare to touch me, my father won't let you go. Just now, you seem to be working for that third prince, right? Duan Ling Tian spoke indifferently, then looked up at a nearby spot and added, however, when something happened to you, he seemed to be the quickest to slip away. Was it worth it? Was it worth it? Duan Ling Tian's words made Ho Jun turn his head back in confusion. When he saw that the third prince had left, his expression subtly changed. The third prince went to the private room. At this moment, a middle-aged man at a nearby table used his elemental energy to transmit a reminder to Ho Jun. Ho Jun's face froze upon hearing this, and then he burst out laughing. Duan Ling Tian frowned. Had this Ho Jun gone mad? Brat, if you have the guts, don't leave. Ho Jun stared at Duan Ling Tian with hatred, speaking through gritted teeth. This left his companions bewildered. The third prince went into the private room. Ho Jun said, looking towards the unique private room inside the 9th floor of the Ice and Fire Tower, his eyes filled with reverence, as if there was something terrifying inside. The third prince went into the private room. Immediately, the other 10 young men and women's eyes lit up. Kid, if you've got guts, just stay here. Exactly. If you dare to leave, you're a coward. If you leave, you're my grandson. The group of young men and women chattered, all sharing a common goal, to use provocation to make Duan Ling Tian stay. Idiots. After a faint glance at the group of young men and women, Duan Ling Tian ignored them and looked at Feng Tianwu. Tianwu, let's continue drinking. Feng Tianwu nodded. Since Duan Ling Tian wasn't afraid, she naturally wouldn't be either, while the main hall on the 9th floor of the Ice and Fire Tower was bustling. Inside the private room, the third prince pushed open the door and looked at the young man in green, who was sitting with his eyes closed. Resting, Zhao Wei. The third prince slowly spoke. The young man in green was in his early 30s, with a handsome appearance. From a distance, he looked like a delicate woman, but the Adam's apple on his throat undoubtedly declared his male identity. He was one of the two most outstanding young people of the current generation in the Daming dynasty, Zhao Wei of the Zhao family. Anyone in the Daming dynasty knew that this young man, whose name sounded like a woman's and whose appearance also resembled a woman's, possessed extremely terrifying cultivation and ruthless methods beneath his delicate exterior. Whenever Zhao Wei made a move, there were rarely any survivors. Lu Hao, are you looking for me? Finally, Zhao Wei slowly opened his eyes and looked at the white-clothed youth with a calm expression, calling him by his name, as if he didn't put him in his heart at all. Lu Hao was not surprised by this point. One must know that even when facing his eldest imperial brother, the crown prince of the Daming dynasty, Zhao Wei still called him by his name, let alone him. Most importantly, Zhao Wei's strength was much greater than his. Zhao Wei, if you don't go out, our Daming dynasty will be greatly humiliated this time. Lu Hao, who was also the third prince of the Dahan dynasty, said slowly. Upon hearing this, a hint of doubt appeared between Zhao Wei's brows. The soundproofing of the private room was excellent, and Zhao Wei had been cultivating just now, so he didn't know what was happening in the main hall outside. Today, a young man and woman arrived on the 9th floor of your Zhao family's Ice and Fire Tower. The man looks about 25 years old, and the woman is in her early 20s. Lu Hao said, and then? Zhao Wei asked with interest. Then, Ho Jun had one of his hands crippled by that young man. The man was so vicious that even a grade 3 rebirth pill couldn't save him. Lu Hao added. Zhao Wei frowned upon hearing this. To be able to cripple Ho Jun, he must be at least an 8th level void prying stage martial artist. An 8th level void prying stage at around 25 years old. Even Zhao Wei couldn't help but be shocked now. One must know that even he only broke through to the 8th level void prying stage after turning 30. Now, hearing that a 25-year-old young man possessed cultivation at or above the 8th level void prying stage, he found it somewhat difficult to accept as a martial arts prodigy. He had his own pride and found it hard to tolerate someone whose talent was so much greater than his. 8th level void prying stage? Hearing Zhao Wei's judgment, Lu Hao scoffed. He's not just 8th level void prying stage. If I told you that Ho Jun and the other 10, 3 at 8th level void prying stage, 5 at 7th level void prying stage, and 3 at 6th level void prying stage, teamed up against that person, but didn't even touch his clothes before all falling down, what would you think? Whoosh. As soon as Lu Hao finished speaking, Zhao Wei instantly sat up, a sharp glint flashing in his eyes. Such a thing happened? If you say so, I'm rather interested in him. He's most likely from another dynasty, passing through our Daming dynasty, preparing to participate in the 10 dynasties martial meet. Let's go? Come with me to meet him. Zhao Wei walked out. Wait. Lu Hao called out to Zhao Wei. Zhao Wei looked at Lu Hao in confusion, wondering what else Lu Hao wanted to say. Zhao Wei, I need to remind you of something. Ho Jun and the other 10, teaming up against that guy, not only failed to even touch his clothes. At this point, Lu Hao paused, then continued, from beginning to end. That person remained in his original position, without moving. He seemed to have used some strange method that caused Ho Jun and the other 10 to fight among themselves, all getting injured. What? Lu Hao's words finally made Zhao Wei, who had remained calm all along, unable to help but be moved. Zhao Wei's eyes sparkled, her thoughts drifting. Such methods were truly astonishing. It seems only those powerful, gifted demonic beasts can employ such techniques. They are methods used with spiritual energy, related to the soul, commonly known as soul skills. In that instant, Zhao Wei thought of many things and finally confirmed her suspicion. However, it is rumored that soul skills are spiritual energy techniques. Human martial artists, unless they are powerhouses above the martial emperor realm, cannot comprehend them. Only some exceptionally talented demonic beasts, possessing an innate soul imprint, can unleash such spiritual energy techniques. Zhao Wei had read all of this in an ancient text in the Zhao family's hidden library. Could it be that he is a demon? In a flash, Zhao Wei's pupils constricted and her face showed horror. If he really is a demon, then everything makes sense. Although he looks only about 25, if he truly is a transformed demon, his youthful appearance is not surprising. Thinking of this, Zhao Wei's face was filled with apprehension. If the other party truly was a demon, then they would at least be a being at the Void Transformation Realm first level. Because demonic beasts can only truly transform into demons and gain the ability to take human form after breaking through to the Void Transformation Realm. Thinking that the other party might be one of those legendary demons, Zhao Wei's heart suddenly pounded. Unable to calm down for a long time, a being of the Void Transformation Realm. Even his Zhao family only had 2 such individuals, and both were merely at the Void Transformation Realm first level. Taking a deep breath, Zhao Wei suppressed the apprehension in her heart, her expression gradually returning to normal as she slowly walked out of the room. The third prince of the great Ming dynasty's imperial family, Lu Hao, frowned and followed her out in the main hall on the 9th floor of the Icefire Tower. Duan Ling Tian quietly savored the blue love, feeling the bone-chilling coldness spread throughout his body, finding it incredibly refreshing. Ah, that's good. Blue love was an upgraded version of ice wine. In addition to being able to enhance elemental energy to a certain extent, it could also solidify elemental energy. Big Brother Duan. Someone's coming out. Feng Tianwu happened to be facing the direction of the private rooms on the 9th floor of the Icefire Tower when she saw the third prince and another unfamiliar young man slowly emerge. She used her elemental energy to send a voice transmission, reminding Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian nodded slightly. In fact, even if Feng Tianwu hadn't reminded him, he had already noticed the 2 people behind him, because their gazes were now fixed on him. Big Brother Wei. Young Master Wei. Soon, the young men and women who had taken the pills and mostly recovered from their injuries all greeted the young man who walked out from the direction of the private room. Young Master Wei? Zhao Wei. Duan Ling Tian raised an eyebrow, guessing the other party's identity. He couldn't help but feel a little surprised, because his spiritual energy had already detected the other parties. Cultivation at the first instant, this Zhao Wei was a martial artist at the Void Prying Realm first level. 1. Of the 2 most outstanding young talents of the current Great Ming Dynasty had already entered the Void Prying Realm, and the other, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, was probably not far behind. As expected of the Great Ming Dynasty, the prevalence of martial arts has indeed produced many gifted martial artists. Duan Ling Tian thought to himself that in fact, let alone Zhao Wei, even the 11 young men and women who had foolishly attacked him earlier, their cultivation levels had also surprised Duan Ling Tian. 3 at the Void Glimpse Realm 6th level, 5 at the Void Glimpse Realm 7th level, and 3 at the Void Glimpse Realm 8th level. The cultivation of these young talents gathered here in the Great Ming Dynasty was already so extraordinary. If this were in the Great Han Dynasty, it would be almost impossible. Young Master Wei. Now, even the middle-aged and elderly patrons in the main hall on the 9th floor of the Icefire Tower respectfully greeted the slowly approaching Zhao Wei. Zhao Wei maintained a calm and composed demeanor throughout, slowly walking to Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tianwu's table amidst respectful gazes. When he saw Feng Tianwu, a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. He had never seen such an outstanding woman in the Great Ming Dynasty. Although it was said that a fair lady is a good match for a gentleman, as a martial arts fanatic, Zhao Wei had no ordinary man's interest in women. Moreover, his marriage had been arranged even before he was born. When the time came, he would simply marry and have children. Women held no allure for him. Only the seemingly endless path of martial arts was his lifelong pursuit that in his eyes. Women were merely tools for procreation. Therefore, Zhao Wei only glanced at Feng Tianwu before his gaze fell on Duan Tian, who was sitting opposite Feng Tianwu. When he saw that Duan Tian was indeed as young as Lu Hao had said, a hint of surprise couldn't help but appear on his face. He then asked, "May I ask your name, esteemed sir?" Duan Tian continued to drink his wine, as if he hadn't heard Zhao Wei's words. Seeing this, Zhao Wei didn't get angry. However, Zhao Wei not getting angry didn't mean others weren't angry, including Ho Jun. A group of young men and women who had suffered at Duan Tian's hands earlier glared at Duan Tian. "Kid, Big Brother Wei is asking you a question. Didn't you hear him? Young Master Wei asking you a question is him showing you respect. If you know what's good for you, answer him quickly. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving this ice fire tower today." After Zhao Wei appeared, the group of young men and women acted as if they had found their backing, having no more reservations when facing Duan Tian. "Don't think about leaving the ice fire tower? Just with you lot." Duan Tian took another sip of the blue love in his wine glass, not even bothering to look up at the young men and women. His words full of disdain. Duan Tian's disdain was seen as a provocation by the group of young men and women, making them all incredibly furious. "Big Brother Wei, this kid is too arrogant. You must teach him a good lesson." The group of young men and women looked at Zhao Wei, treating him as their savior. Unfortunately, even though they urged him, Zhao Wei showed no intention of making a move. His eyes were fixed on Duan Tian, and he transmitted his voice with elemental energy, saying, "If I'm not mistaken, esteemed sir, you should be a powerful demon, right?" "Demon?" Hearing Zhao Wei's voice transmission, Duan Tian was first stunned, then couldn't help but laugh. Seeing the sudden smile on Duan Tian's face, Zhao Wei was a little confused. He frowned and continued to transmit his voice with elemental energy, saying, "Am I wrong? The technique you just used, which effortlessly made them fight each other, should be a soul skill innate to some special, gifted demonic beasts, right? You even know about soul skills?" Finally, Duan Tian looked up, glancing at Zhao Wei with some surprise, and transmitted his voice with elemental energy. "It seems, esteemed sir, you truly are a demon." Zhao Wei took a deep look at Duan Tian and continued to transmit his voice with elemental energy. "I know you're testing me, but if you say I'm a demon, then so be it." Duan Tian smiled and replied with a voice transmission. Zhao Wei, who had already confirmed that Duan Tian was a demon upon hearing him admit to using soul skills, couldn't help but freeze when he heard Duan Tian's voice transmission. What did this purple-clothed young man mean by that? Was he not a demon? But if he wasn't a demon, how could he possibly use soul skills? And how could he possess such terrifying abilities at such a young age? Just then, two soft footsteps sounded. The leading footsteps were incredibly steady. With each step, Duan Tian's heart couldn't help but tremble slightly. A void transformation realm powerhouse. Duan Tian's pupils suddenly constricted, and at the same time, his gaze fell on the source of the footsteps. There, two people were slowly walking into the main hall on the 9th floor of the Ice Fire Tower. The one in front was a burly middle-aged man in a green robe, with disheveled hair and a face full of stubble. He seemed ordinary but was actually reserved. Duan Tian sensed an incredibly dangerous aura from him. Duan Tian's gaze then fell on the burly middle-aged man's back. And with just one look, his eyes froze, because he recognized this person. Su Li. Before Duan Tian could speak, Feng Tianwu had already spotted Su Li and couldn't help but exclaim, hearing the voice. Su Li also noticed Feng Tianwu immediately, and then Duan Tian. His face filled with surprise that he clearly hadn't expected to meet Duan Tian and Feng Tianwu here at this moment. The seemingly unruly, burly young man had already sat down at an empty wine table. After Su Li greeted him, he walked towards Duan Tian's table, although a group of young men and women were currently glaring at Duan Tian. Su Li completely ignored them and walked directly to Duan Tian's side and sat down. "Miss Tianwu." Su Li first greeted Feng Tianwu. then looked at Duan Ling Tian and smiled. Duan Ling Tian, how did you and Miss Tian Wu end up here? Just passing by. Duan Ling Tian smiled slightly, then glanced at the burly middle-aged man in the distance, lowering his voice to ask, Su Li, is that your master? The burly middle-aged man seemed disheveled, but the feeling he gave Duan Ling Tian was even more terrifying than by Nanxiang. The former powerhouse of the great Han dynasty's imperial family, by Nanxiang at least, had displayed the might of a void transformation realm powerhouse in front of him. But Su Li's master, without even making a move, just standing and sitting there, brought immense pressure to Duan Ling Tian. Su Li nodded, then said to Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tian Wu, come, I'll introduce you to master. With that, Su Li stood up, leading Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tian Wu towards the burly middle-aged man. Throughout, the three of them completely ignored Zhao Wei and the others. Ho Jun gritted his teeth. Although he was extremely angry, having suffered at Duan Ling Tian's hands, he truly didn't dare to act rashly before Zhao Wei made a move. Duan Ling Tian? Zhao Wei raised an eyebrow. This name sounds somewhat familiar. Master, this is Miss Tianwu of the Feng family. As for this one, he is my friend, Duan Ling Tian, whom I've mentioned to you before. Su Li led Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tian Wu to the burly middle-aged man and introduced them. Duan Ling Tian? The burly middle-aged man's gaze swept over Feng Tian Wu before locking onto Duan Ling Tian. Are you the Duan Ling Tian who took first place in the dynasty martial competition of the Dahan dynasty over half a year ago? Duan Ling Tian greets senior. Since the other party was Su Li's master, Duan Ling Tian didn't want to be impolite. Moreover, this burly middle-aged man in front of him was definitely the strongest person he had ever seen. Aside from the mysterious young girl Han Xuanai's servant Qing Nu and his father, that Qing Nu was not a human martial artist. His power was so restrained that Duan Ling Tian couldn't fathom it at all. As for his father, he couldn't see through him at all. Indeed, a good sapling. After sizing up Duan Ling Tian for a while, the burly middle-aged man nodded. Duan Ling Tian smiled humbly, then said a few words to Su Li before returning to his original seat with Feng Tian Wu. And now, Zhao Wei's gaze towards Duan Ling Tian had completely changed. Just now, prompted by the burly middle-aged man, he finally remembered, not long ago, he had heard about the final results of the dynasty martial competitions held by several nearby dynasties, and he was familiar with the people who had ranked first in those competitions. The first place winner of the Dahan dynasty's martial competition was a young man named Duan Ling Tian. It was said that this Duan Ling Tian was a young man who looked about 25 years old now. He had completely confirmed it. The purple-clad young man sitting in front of him was indeed that Duan Ling Tian. You are Duan Ling Tian? The third prince, Lu Hao, frowned, looking at Duan Ling Tian with some apprehension. He had also heard about the first-place winner of the Dahan dynasty's martial competition in the past. As for Ho Jun and the other 11 young men and women, they had all heard the burly middle-aged man's words just now and knew that Duan Ling Tian was the first-place winner of the Dahan dynasty's martial competition. Immediately, their expressions turned a little ugly, and no wonder this young man's strength was so formidable. He was the foremost talent among the younger generation of the Dahan dynasty. So you are that Duan Ling Tian from the Dahan dynasty. Zhao Wei's previously wary gaze towards Duan Ling Tian vanished, replaced by coldness. Earlier, because he suspected Duan Ling Tian was a powerful demon, he was full of apprehension towards Duan Ling Tian, and even dared not harbor any thoughts of becoming his enemy. But now, knowing Duan Ling Tian's true identity, his face slightly darkened. Duan Ling Tian, you injured so many people from my Daming dynasty in my Zhao family's Icefire Tower. Shouldn't you give my Zhao family an explanation? Give the Daming dynasty an explanation? After learning Duan Ling Tian's identity, Zhao Wei instantly became assertive and aggressive. What? You're not afraid of me anymore. Duan Ling Tian lazily raised his head, glanced at Zhao Wei indifferently, and said languidly, You. Zhao Wei's face darkened. Earlier, because he suspected Duan Ling Tian was a demon, he was not only polite, but also a little afraid of him. Now that Duan Ling Tian had exposed him, he couldn't help but feel a little ashamed and angry. Duan Ling Tian, I'll say it again. Today, you either give me an explanation or you lie down. By the end of his words, Zhao Wei's robes billowed without wind, and his eyes were filled with cold sternness. Explanation? Duan Ling Tian glanced at Zhao Wei indifferently. What kind of explanation do you want? Kneel down and kowtow 3 times to Ho Jun and the others. I'll decide this matter, and it will be completely written off. Zhao Wei said in a deep voice, kneel down, kowtow 3 times. Before Duan Ling Tian could say anything, Feng Tianwu's expression had already changed, and she glared at Zhao Wei, saying, the people of the Zhao family truly have great prestige. Su Li, who had just sat down in the distance, also changed his expression upon hearing Zhao Wei's words. He instantly stood up, his gaze like a sword fixed on Zhao Wei's back. What you can do, he can do too. What he can do, you might not be able to do. The burly middle-aged man sitting opposite Su Li said indifferently, his voice not loud, only clear enough for Su Li to hear. Su Li smiled wryly and sat down again. He naturally understood the meaning in his master's words that it simply meant that what he could resolve, Duan Ling Tian could also resolve. And what Duan Ling Tian could resolve, he might not be able to resolve. Kid, did you hear what Brother Wei said? Hurry up and kneel, kowtow 3 times. Ho Jun stepped forward, gesticulating at Duan Ling Tian, borrowing the authority of others. Whoosh. Almost at the same instant Ho Jun's words fell, a sudden sword cry, like a fleeting bloom, echoed. Ah! The next moment, Ho Jun shrieked in agony. His other hand had been severed at the shoulder, blood gushing like a fountain. And it took him a while to barely stop the bleeding with his vital energy. It was Duan Ling Tian who instantly drew his sword, severing Ho Jun's arm. And all of this did not stop. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Duan Ling Tian's sword flashed like lightning, sending out streaks of sword light. In a moment, Ho Jun's severed arm, which had fallen to the ground, was shredded to pieces, making it impossible to reattach. You are so vicious. Seeing this scene, Ho Jun was so enraged that his face turned from green to pale. He couldn't catch his breath and directly fainted. Having fainted, his wound, without vital energy to stop the bleeding, continued to gush, staining the ground with blood. Monkey. Ho Jun's companions rushed forward to stop his bleeding. You dare to injure someone in front of me, Zhao Wei? Zhao Wei's face was as dark as water. He took a step, seemingly covering a vast distance in an instant, and the next moment, he was already in front of Duan Ling Tian. Boom! Terrifying vital energy instantly erupted from his body, and the vast power of heaven and earth caused the void to tremble, converging into a celestial phenomenon. 20 ancient horned dragon phantoms appeared first. Void prying stage first level. Seeing this, Feng Tianwu's pretty face changed, and she cried out in alarm, wind sweeping clouds. And just as Zhao Wei approached, before he could even use his profound meaning, Duan Ling Tian had already left his seat, transforming into a hurricane, sweeping towards the distance. Wherever Duan Ling Tian passed, the sound of wind and thunder exploded, deafening to the ears. Above the void above his head, a celestial phenomenon appeared. First, 12 ancient horned dragon phantoms emerged, followed by 9 ancient horned dragon phantoms and 4 ancient horned dragon phantoms. Nascent soul stage 9th level. 9th level wind, profound meaning. 4th level thunder, profound meaning. At the same time, the surging milky white vital energy on Zhao Wei's body instantly turned fiery red, as if forming a real ball of flame. Whoosh. Above the void, beside the 20 ancient horned dragon phantoms, another 20 ancient horned dragon phantoms appeared, winding down, lifelike, the power of 40 ancient horned dragons. This was exactly 5 ancient horned dragons more powerful than the strength Duan Ling Tian used when he fled. Your comprehension of profound meaning is not bad. It's just a pity that you are only at the nascent soul stage 9th level and still not my opponent. Zhao Wei was enveloped in flames, like a fire god. He stared coldly at Duan Ling Tian and slowly said, I'll give you one last chance. Kneel down, kowtow 3 times, and cripple one arm and one leg yourself. Considering that the Dahan dynasty is also a neighbor of our Daming dynasty, I will spare your life." Zhao Wei finished speaking in one breath. "From your tone, it seems you're confident you can defeat me." Duan Ling Tian met Zhao Wei's gaze without any fear. "I know you understand the soul skill mental power technique that only special, talented demon beasts can use. But I want to tell you that I am a void-prying stage first-level martial artist, and my mental power is inherently stronger than yours. Your soul skill is useless against me." Zhao Wei sneered. "Soul skill?" Zhao Wei's words made everyone except himself and Duan Ling Tian momentarily stunned. "Soul skill?" The burly middle-aged man looked at Su Li and asked, "This Duan Ling Tian, he also knows soul skill?" I'm not too sure." Su Li shook his head, then added, "However, Duan Ling Tian indeed has an extremely terrifying method that can affect a person, making them seem as if they've been possessed. Many people call his method demonic art. Could it be that he really understands soul skill?" The burly middle-aged man raised an eyebrow, then looked at Duan Ling Tian with interest. His eyes subtly mixed with anticipation for a human martial artist to be able to use a mental power technique like soul skill without achieving martial emperor status was truly incredible. He wanted to know if Duan Ling Tian could really use mental power techniques. "It seems you know quite a bit about soul skills." Facing Zhao Wei, who had displayed his void-prying stage first-level cultivation, Duan Ling Tian's expression remained calm as he said indifferently. Zhao Wei's face showed a triumphant expression, as if to say, "I've got you cornered. However, since you say my soul skill is useless against you, then you can try it." Duan Ling Tian added. Zhao Wei's triumphant smile instantly froze, his eyes seemingly spitting fire. "Since that's the case, then I'll grant your wish. The foremost talent of the Dahan dynasty's younger generation shall die here today." As soon as his voice fell, Zhao Wei moved, transforming into a bolt of lightning, streaking directly towards Duan Ling Tian. And just as Zhao Wei's figure moved, a faint light flashed deep within Duan Ling Tian's eyes. His mental power, which had long been building up, instantly merged with the soul imprint deep within his soul, directly unleashing his exclusive soul skill point thousand illusions. In an instant, an illusionary space appeared, directly enveloping Zhao Wei. The next moment, everyone on the 9th floor of the Icefire Tower was stunned. They saw that Zhao Wei, who had originally been charging aggressively, strangely changed direction as he neared Duan Ling Tian, sweeping aside and attacking the AIR.to others. He now looked as if he had gone mad. "Master, this is Duan Ling Tian's method," Su Li said. "If they're not acting, this Duan Ling Tian might really understand soul skill." The burly middle-aged man's gaze narrowed as he murmured, "Brother Wei, young Master Wei." Instantly, a group of young men and women shouted out, wanting to awaken Zhao Wei, who seemed to be possessed. Unfortunately, no matter how much they shouted or how they used their elemental energy to condense their voices, Zhao Wei continued to attack the air, oblivious to everything around him. Duan Ling Tian stood to the side, observing with cold eyes. This Zhao Wei actually thought that his spiritual force was the same as his cultivation, only at the 9th level of the void-prying stage. He was truly naive. One must know that his current spiritual force had already reached the 2nd level of the void amalgamation stage, let alone Zhao Wei, who had 1st level of the void amalgamation stage spiritual force, even a 2nd level void amalgamation stage martial artist. As long as they weren't an inscription master, would be unable to escape from the illusionary space he created with his soul skill, 1000 illusions, unless he voluntarily stopped. "It's time to end this." Duan Ling Tian's eyes flashed, and with a thought, he moved behind Zhao Wei. Bang! Duan Ling Tian pushed out a palm, wide and sweeping, landing on Zhao Wei's back. Vast elemental energy surged into him, scattering all the elemental energy within Zhao Wei's body and injuring him. Zhao Wei's body trembled, and he let out a muffled groan, flying out like an arrow shot from a bowstring, falling to the ground in a sorry state, spitting out mouthfuls of blood. This moment, Duan Ling Tian withdrew his soul skill, 1000 illusions, and the illusionary space dissipated with it. After leaving the illusionary space, Zhao Wei looked at the unharmed Duan Ling Tian, his face changing drastically. No, impossible. You are only a 9th-level void-prying stage martial artist. Your spiritual force should only be at the 9th level of the void-prying stage. How could your soul skill interfere with me? You? Want to try again? Duan Ling Tian stared calmly at Zhao Wei, speaking indifferently. Upon hearing this, Zhao Wei's expression froze, and a look of apprehension flickered in his eyes, knowing that he couldn't escape Duan Ling Tian's soul skill interference. He knew that he was not Duan Ling Tian's opponent, at least not for now. At this moment, he still couldn't understand why Duan Ling Tian's soul skill could affect him. Could it be that Duan Ling Tian's spiritual force had already reached the void amalgamation stage? Thinking about it now, that was the only possibility. I admit, I'm not your opponent. However, do you think that if you can defeat me, you can leave Icefire Tower unharmed? Zhao Wei sneered. And at this very moment, an old man slowly walked out of the private room on the 9th floor of Icefire Tower. The old man was dressed in gray, with a gaunt figure and an indifferent face. He showed no expression, like a living dead person. The gray-clothed old man came out of the inner private room within the private room. Although there was only one private room on the 9th floor of Icefire Tower, it was divided into an outer private room and an inner private room. Zhao Wei usually stayed in the outer private room whenever he came to Icefire Tower, and in the inner private room, there was a strong expert from the Zhao family, guarding this Icefire Tower expert, Old Kuan. After the gray-clothed old man came out, Zhao Wei respectfully bowed to him. Old Kuan. The other young men and women looked at the old man slowly approaching with apprehension. They were from distinguished backgrounds and had all heard of this old man's deeds. This old man was not only one of the 2 strongest individuals in the Zhao family, but he also killed without batting an eye in his daily life. There were at least 800, if not 1,000, people who had died by his hand. The old man nodded to Zhao Wei, completely ignoring the others. Soon, he stood in front of Zhao Wei, and a sharp glint suddenly shot out from his cloudy eyes, directly towards Duan Ling Tian's location. How does young Master Heir think he should be dealt with? The old man asked. His words were clearly directed at Zhao Wei. Upon hearing this, Zhao Wei stared at Duan Ling Tian with cold eyes and said in a deep voice, Old Kuan, kill him. In his opinion, as long as Duan Ling Tian died, he would have one less opponent stronger than him in the 10 Dynasty martial arts competition a few months later. The old man nodded lightly, and the glint in his eyes instantly turned into a chilling murderous intent. Whoosh. As the old man's gray robe fluttered, the power of heaven and earth gradually stirred, when a layer of elemental energy light shield appeared all over his body. A heaven and earth phenomenon appeared above the void of his head. 200 ancient, horned dragon phantoms instantly appeared, their momentum vast. Void transformation stage expert. Feng Tianwu and Su Li's faces changed drastically. Immediately after, Feng Tianwu's hand trembled, and a jade bead appeared in her hand. The bead looked plain and unadorned, but Feng Tianwu taking it out now clearly meant it had a purpose. However, as Feng Tianwu's fingers moved slightly, preparing to crush the bead, the elemental energy condensed sound that reached her ears first made her pause, and then she put away the bead. This bead was an induction inscription, inscribed bead. As long as she crushed it, her father, Feng Wudao, would detect it immediately and rush over at the fastest speed. That it was precisely because of the existence of this bead that her father felt at ease letting her and Duan Ling Tian come here together. Boy, with Old Kuan making a move, you're dead. To even dare to touch young Master Wei, you're truly courting death. The group of young men and women looked at Duan Ling Tian as if they were looking at a dead man. Boy, remember, the one who killed you is I, Zhao Kuan. The old man sneered, then suddenly stepped forward. With a raise of his hand, vast elemental energy swept out, and a solid palm print appeared in an instant, then disappeared from Duan Ling Tian's sight in another instant. Of course, it didn't truly disappear, but rather its speed was so fast that Duan Ling Tian could barely capture it with his naked eye, and almost at the same time, Duan Ling Tian only felt a terrifying gust of wind coming at him, getting closer and closer, as if it would hit him in an instant. Even so, Duan Ling Tian still remained calm, fearless. Whoosh. Suddenly, a sword cry sounded, fleeting like a flash in the pan. The next moment, there was a burst of sound in the air, as the solid palm print that the old man had sent out was directly shattered. Who is it? The old man's face changed drastically, and his eyes, like lightning, swept towards the burly middle-aged man sitting at a nearby wine table. Whoosh. Another sword cry sounded, still fleeting like a flash in the pan. Ah! The group of young men and women's faces changed drastically, and they screamed in terror, their constricted pupils staring blankly at the old man. Old Kuan, Zhao Wei cried out in sorrow. What a fast sword! Looking at the blood hole that appeared on the old man's throat, Duan Ling Tian only felt a chill run down his spine. He only heard the fleeting sword cry and completely failed to capture any trace of the sword. Boom! The old man's body fell, blood gushing from his throat like a pillar, flowing out as if forming a small stream. When everyone, including Duan Ling Tian, looked at the burly middle-aged man, who was Su Li's master, Su Li's master never even glanced at the old man's corpse. A mere void transformation stage martial artist from a dynasty's family dares to shout at my master. He deserves to die. Su Li glanced coldly at the old man's corpse, speaking indifferently. Thank you, senior. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian smiled and thanked the burly middle-aged man. Just now, it was because he noticed that the burly middle-aged man's aura had locked onto the old man that he stopped Feng Tianwu from crushing the bead inscribed with the induction inscription, and also didn't take out one of the two talismans his father had left for him. The burly middle-aged man was a powerful expert from an outer realm force, so dealing with the old man was effortless. However, he never expected that the burly middle-aged man would directly kill the old man. They say those powerful sword cultivators are extremely violent. Today, I've witnessed it. Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. No need for thanks. You are Su Li's friend, so naturally you are my junior. It is only right for an elder to protect their junior. The burly middle-aged man waved his hand, speaking indifferently, and now, although Zhao Wei glared at the burly middle-aged man with hatred, he could only suppress it and dared not utter a sound. He believed that if the burly middle-aged man intended to kill him, it would be as easy as turning over his hand. Therefore, to save his life, he could only endure. Moreover, the fact that the other party could instantly kill one of the two strongest void transformation stage experts in their Zhao family indicated that the other party had the strength to annihilate their entire Zhao family against such an expert. A head-on confrontation would undoubtedly lead to their Zhao family's defeat. Duan Ling Tian, this is all because of you. Our Zhao family cannot seek revenge on him, but we will definitely grind you to dust and tear you to pieces. Zhao Wei's extremely hateful gaze shifted to Duan Ling Tian, and he secretly vowed in his heart. Duan Ling Tian naturally noticed Zhao Wei's gaze, but didn't care at all. After a moment, the burly middle-aged man put down his wine glass, stood up, and walked towards the staircase leading to the 8th floor of Icefire Tower, preparing to leave. Su Li stood up and followed closely, not forgetting to greet Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian, my master and I are leaving first. See you at the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts Competition. Duan Ling Tian smiled in response, and at the same time looked at the burly middle-aged man. Senior, take care. Seeing the burly middle-aged man leave, Zhao Wei felt a sense of relief, and at the same time, he made a decision. As soon as the burly young man left, he would return to the Zhao family. In any case, Duan Ling Tian must die. The death of Elder Kuan must be repaid with Duan Ling Tian's blood. However, soon, his face couldn't help but change again. The burly middle-aged man slowly turned his head, casually glanced at Zhao Wei, and said indifferently, if I don't see Duan Ling Tian at the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts Competition, after the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts Competition, I will come to the capital of the Daming Dynasty again and exterminate the entire Zhao family. After saying these incredibly domineering words, the burly middle-aged man finally left with Su Li. Thank you, senior. Duan Ling Tian smiled. He knew that with Su Li's master leaving these words, the Zhao family would not only not dare to seek revenge on him, but would even have to protect him. Otherwise, if anything happened to him before the 10 Dynasty martial arts competition, the Zhao family would be doomed. Tianwu, let's go back to. After Su Li and his master left, Duan Ling Tian called out to Feng Tianwu, then swaggered out of the 9th floor of Icefire Tower, disappearing from the sight of Zhao Wei and the others. Zhao Wei's body trembled violently with anger, enraged to the extreme, yet utterly helpless. Wah! Finally, he was so infuriated that he forcibly spat out a mouthful of clotted blood when Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tianwu walked out of the Icefire Tower. Su Li and his master were nowhere to be seen. I never thought we'd run into Su Li here today, Feng Tianwu said with a smile. Yeah, me neither, Duan Ling Tian nodded, also surprised. Then, a thought stirred in Duan Ling Tian's mind. What surprised me even more is that in the capital of this mere daming dynasty, I could actually drink wines like blazing fire wine, ice-cold wine, as well as bloody allure and blue love. It seemed that because the Daming dynasty was adjacent to the outer realm, besides the prevalence of martial arts, it also possessed many things that other dynasties did not. Big Brother Duan, do you think the Zhao family will send people to protect you? Remembering the scene just now, Feng Tianwu couldn't help but laugh. Duan Ling Tian also laughed. But I never expected that Zhao Wei, one of the 2 most outstanding young talents of the current generation in the Daming dynasty, is already a void-prying stage martial artist. Feng Tianwu sighed. It's said that the crown prince of the Daming dynasty is even stronger than Zhao Wei. I imagine the crown prince of the Daming dynasty must also be a cultivation above the void-prying stage. After returning to the inn, the 2 rested for another 2 days before continuing their journey. Duan Ling Tian and the other 2 left the capital of the Daming dynasty and arrived at the place where they had parted ways with the azure-eyed giant eagle. The azure-eyed giant eagle was already waiting there. After the 3 landed on the azure-eyed giant eagle's back, its wings spread, transforming into a flash of lightning, instantly disappearing from its original spot. Their destination was the great desert ancient city in the northern desert. That was precisely where the 10 Dynasty martial arts meet. Was to be held. Along the way, Duan Ling Tian held the wind concept fragment, diligently comprehending the wind concept. Now, he was only 1 step away from comprehending the first-level intermediate wind concept. Once the concept was achieved, his cultivation would instantly break through to the void-prying stage. Time flew by. 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, Duan Ling Tian, who had been sitting cross-legged on the azure-eyed giant eagle's back like a statue, finally stirred. On Duan Ling Tian's body, wisps of solidified azure energy were on the verge of erupting, finally coiling around him, forming visible winds that pulsed. Suddenly, on Duan Ling Tian's body, elemental energy surged and merged with these azure energies, forming true wind. The wind did not blow in all directions, but rather coiled around Duan Ling Tian, spinning faster and faster, eventually almost forming a tornado. The tornado was inconspicuous at first, but after 3 days and 3 nights, it caused the airflow in the air to rotate rapidly, forming a constantly spinning vortex. Big Brother Duan. Feng Tianwu woke up from her cultivation, startled by the tornado around Duan Ling Tian. Father, what's wrong with Big Brother Duan? Feng Tianwu looked at Feng Wu Dao, who was sitting nearby, and asked with a worried expression, Don't worry, it's a good thing. He's about to break through. Feng Wu Dao's eyesight was incredibly sharp. He had long seen through the changes happening to Duan Ling Tian. It was the 9th level elementary wind concept, completing its final transformation. Once the transformation was successful, like a pheasant turning into a phoenix, the elementary wind concept would transform into the intermediate wind concept. By then, Duan Ling Tian's cultivation would advance further, directly breaking through to the void-prying stage. Breakthrough. Feng Tianwu's autumn eyes lit up, and a smile appeared on her pretty face. Happy for Duan Ling Tian. And the tornado forming around Duan Ling Tian's body spun faster and faster, eventually causing the azure-eyed giant eagle's elemental energy shield to fluctuate. as if it could be torn apart at any moment. Azure, retract your elemental energy shield. Let him be outside, Feng Wu Dao said to the azure-eyed giant eagle. The azure-eyed giant eagle nodded gently, and the elemental energy shield immediately retracted, only protecting Feng Wu Dao and his daughter. As for Duanling Tian, he was completely exposed to the outside, facing the gusts of fierce winds that assailed him. However, these fierce winds were completely shredded by the tornado around Duanling Tian before they could even get close to him. Duanling Tian was safe and sound within the tornado. At this moment, Duanling Tian was completely immersed in comprehending the wind concept. He himself didn't know how much time had passed. He only knew that he needed to further comprehend the intermediate wind concept. Unconsciously, he touched the threshold of the intermediate wind concept and was only one step away. But it was this final step that stumped him. At first, no matter how hard he tried, it was useless, and he gradually felt a little discouraged. But later, when he was disappointed and about to give up, what he achieved by accident was to cross that final step. Boom. As he crossed this final step, Duanling Tian felt as if he had been enlightened, and refreshing breezes flowed into his body through the pores all over him. When all the wind merged into his body, with a single thought, a series of imposing azure winds once again stirred around him. Now, even without the cooperation of elemental energy, the wind concept was not much different from normal wind. Suddenly, Duanling Tian opened his eyes, a sharp glint flashing through them. After opening his eyes, the first thing Duanling Tian did was to raise his head and look at the void above him. There, the heaven and earth phenomenon had already taken shape. Silhouettes of ancient horned dragons gathered there, moving swiftly as he moved. There were a total of 20 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons. First-level intermediate wind concept. Duanling Tian's eyes lit up. He knew he had successfully comprehending the intermediate wind concept, also known as the void prying concept. Comprehending the void prying concept also meant he had obtained the pass to the void prying stage. Big Brother Duan. Congratulations. Feng Tianwu smiled and congratulated Duanling Tian. Duanling Tian returned a smile, then couldn't help but ask, how much time has passed now? It's been 2 months since we left the capital of the Daming Dynasty. Soon, we'll be able to enter the northern desert, Feng Tianwu told Duanling Tian. Duanling Tian suddenly realized, and after looking down for a while, he found that everything in sight was a hazy expanse. Because there was no sunlight, his vision was completely blocked by clouds and mist. Duanling Tian nodded, and after nodding to Feng Wu Dao, he closed his eyes again, and the first-level intermediate wind concept on his body also receded. The scene before her made Feng Tianwu a little puzzled. Hadn't Big Brother Duan's wind concept already broken through? Why did he close his eyes again? Could it be? As if she had thought of something, Feng Tianwu's autumn eyes narrowed. Big Brother Duan wants to directly charge into the first-level void prying stage. Feng Tianwu hadn't expected Duanling Tian's ambition to be so great. At once, while she was amazed, she felt an invisible motivation, as if urging her to quickly cultivate diligently. Immediately. Feng Tianwu sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate and comprehend the fire concept. Unconsciously, elemental energy surged around Feng Tianwu. Combined with the fire concept, it actually transformed into a solidified flame, like a real flame. If Duanling Tian were to see this scene, he would undoubtedly be greatly surprised. Immediately, Feng Tianwu sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate and comprehend the fire concept. Unconsciously, elemental energy surged around Feng Tianwu. Combined with the fire concept, it actually transformed into a solidified flame, like a real flame. If Duanling Tian were to see this scene, he would undoubtedly be greatly surprised, simply because the fire concept Feng Tianwu was now displaying was no longer the ordinary elementary fire concept. Her current fire concept could already materialize, which meant it was not far from the first-level intermediate fire concept. She could formally comprehend the intermediate fire concept at any time. Once that happened, Feng Tianwu's cultivation would advance further, reaching the void prying stage. Feng Wu Dao stood by, his gaze always fixed on Duanling Tian.at this moment. He vaguely felt that the elemental energy within Duanling Tian's body showed signs of breaking through. This Kidling Tian is truly surprising. He just comprehended the void prying concept and is already about to break through to the void prying stage. Currently, Duanling Tian was completely immersed in cultivation. The elemental energy within his body was increasing at an extremely fast rate. The elemental energy, which had already reached the limit of the 9th level void transformation stage, could now be further improved. Because he had comprehended the void prying concept, using the medicinal power of the Nirvana pill, I will break through the bottleneck in one go and reach the void prying stage. Duanling Tian's mind stirred, and his elemental energy began to draw upon the accumulated medicinal power of the Nirvana pill within his body, assisting his elemental energy to further rapidly increase every moment. Duanling Tian could clearly feel his elemental energy constantly growing stronger. 1 day passed, 2 days passed, 3 days passed. On the 5th day, boom, the elemental energy within Duanling Tian's body, under his guidance and the incredibly potent medicinal power of the Nirvana pill, finally successfully broke through the last bottleneck of the 9th level void transformation stage. After the bottleneck was broken, the elemental energy flowed throughout his body, undergoing a rapid transformation. Not long after, the elemental energy completely transformed within Duanling Tian's Dantian. After the elemental energy transformed, the infant-like mist formed by the elemental energy became even more solidified, no longer as ethereal as before. Is this the void prying stage? Duanling Tian opened his eyes, clenching his fists slightly. In an instant, elemental energy flowed through his body, coiling around him for a moment. The power of heaven and earth fluctuated, and above Duanling Tian's head in the void, a sudden change occurred. Silhouettes of ancient horned dragons rapidly condensed, gathering together with immense momentum. There were a total of 20 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons, with just elemental energy. Once unleashed, it was comparable to the power of 20 ancient horned dragons, which was the sign of the 1st level void prying stage. I broke through. Duanling Tian smiled. A brilliant smile. Originally, in his estimation, it would be good enough to break through to the void prying stage before the 10 Dynasty martial arts meet, but he never expected to be almost 2 months ahead of schedule. Perhaps, in these nearly 2 months, I can use the potent medicinal power of the Nirvana pill to charge into the 2nd level void prying stage. Duanling Tian's heart stirred. Asterisk, you truly are surprising, kid. It's only been 5 days since you comprehended the void interpretation realm, and you've already smoothly broken through to the void realm. Such progress is enough to make any 9th level void prying martial artist feel ashamed. Feng Wudao looked at Duanling Tian and sighed. Just lucky. Duanling Tian grinned humbly, not particularly surprised that he could break through to the void realm so quickly, not to mention that his Yuanli had already reached the limit of the 9th level void prying realm. The potent medicinal power of the Nirvana pill accumulated in his body was also enough to allow him to quickly break through to the void realm. The medicinal power of the Nirvana pill was no joke. In nearly 2 months, my goal is the 2nd level void realm. Duanling Tian closed his eyes again and continued to cultivate. Although he could now comprehend an intent, using intent fragments while cultivating, he didn't do so because he needed to focus now. To focus on the cultivation method of the 7th transformation of the 9-Dragon War Sovereign technique. The 7th transformation of the 9-Dragon War Sovereign technique was called the Sword Dragon transformation. This 7th transformation, Sword Dragon transformation, of the 9-Dragon War Sovereign technique, besides being able to cultivate and improve his cultivation at the Void Realm level, could also help him quickly comprehend the sword intent. Not only that, but this Sword Dragon transformation also contained a high-grade heaven-rank offensive martial skill, the 9-Dragon Inch Flash. The 9-Dragon Inch Flash was a set of martial skills based on sword intent. My wind intent is now at the void interpretation realm, which meets the conditions for performing heaven rank martial skills. However, this 9 Dragon Inch flash requires sword intent as its foundation to be activated. Duan Ling Tian's heart stirred. I need to at least comprehend first-level low-grade sword intent. With that thought, Duan Ling Tian stopped thinking further and began cultivating according to the Sword Dragon Transformation cultivation method, quickly immersing himself completely. The 7th transformation of the 9 Dragon War Sovereign technique, Sword Dragon Transformation, could allow him to comprehend sword momentum and even sword intent while improving his cultivation. Of course, it could only be comprehended up to first-level low-grade sword intent. The subsequent levels would still need to be comprehended. On his own, it seems that before comprehending first-level low-grade sword intent, I can't be distracted by using intent fragments to comprehend other intents. Thinking of this, Duan Ling Tian felt helpless but had no other choice. Now, he only hoped that he could quickly comprehend that first-level low-grade sword intent while improving his cultivation. After breaking through to the Void Realm, Duan Ling Tian continued to cultivate, quickly familiarizing himself with the cultivation method of the 7th transformation of the 9 Dragon War Sovereign technique, Sword Dragon Transformation, and getting his cultivation on track. He awoke from his cultivation half a month later. The morning sun rose high, casting its light upon the earth, and the sunlight enveloped Duan Ling Tian, causing his eyes to narrow involuntarily. Is this the northern desert? Duan Ling Tian looked down at the vast land beneath the azure-eyed giant eagle. This land was a desolate plain and hills, uninhabited, stretching as far as the eye could see. Feng Wudao responded. Uncle Feng, have you been here before? Duan Ling Tian asked curiously. Once. Feng Wudao nodded. The farthest I've been is the Great Desert Ancient City in the northern desert. The Great Desert Ancient City is also the city closest to our various dynasties in the outer realm. Duan Ling Tian nodded in understanding. Swoosh. Suddenly, a piercing whooshing sound came from behind, entering Duan Ling Tian's ears. Making him turn his head to look, he saw a swift flying demonic beast approaching from that direction. And vaguely, there were 2 figures on its back. The flying demonic beast flew at full speed, no slower than the azure-eyed giant eagle, and with the addition of its void interpretation realm, it quickly closed the distance with the azure-eyed giant eagle at this moment. Duan Ling Tian clearly saw the appearance of the flying demonic beast. It was an extremely ugly flying demonic beast, resembling a vulture. 7th level void realm demonic beast. Duan Ling Tian's spiritual power easily detected the cultivation of this vulture demonic beast. Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but search through the memories of the reincarnation Martial Emperor and quickly found records about this type of vulture demonic beast. Lightning vulture, a void realm demonic beast, even stronger than the azure-eyed giant eagle. The most outstanding ones in the Lightning Vulture clan are 9th level void realm existences. Even in the Lightning Vulture clan, there have been demons. After learning the details of the Lightning Vulture, Duan Ling Tian was secretly surprised. Swoosh. At this moment, the Lightning Vulture approached the azure-eyed giant eagle and soon flew parallel to it. The 2 figures on the Lightning Vulture clearly appeared in Duan Ling Tian's sight. That a young man, about 30 years old, dressed in a cyan robe, with sword-like eyebrows and star-like eyes, handsome and elegant. However, at this moment, his face was tinged with anxiety. Beside the young man stood a girl of 15 or 16, delicate and exquisite, tightly clutching the young man's sleeve, her bright, watery eyes revealing fear. Just as Duan Ling Tian wondered why the 2 had such expressions, another piercing whooshing sound came from behind Duan Ling Tian. Another flying demonic beast appeared before Duan Ling Tian's eyes. The speed of this flying demonic beast was as fast as lightning, much faster than both the azure-eyed giant eagle and the previous lightning vulture. Swoosh. In a moment, this flying demonic beast overtook the azure-eyed giant eagle, chasing after the lightning vulture that had already flown far ahead of the azure-eyed giant eagle. Another lightning vulture. Duan Ling Tian clearly saw the appearance of this flying demonic beast. It was exactly the same as the lightning vulture from before. However, its body was larger, and the oppressive feeling it brought was much heavier than the previous one. Duan Ling Tian's spiritual power extended, and he immediately detected the details of this lightning vulture, ninth-level void realm demonic beast. After detecting the details of this lightning vulture, Duan Ling Tian's pupils instantly constricted. A ninth-level void realm lightning vulture was an extremely rare, outstanding individual even within the lightning vulture clan, and he hadn't expected to encounter one. On the lightning vulture's back stood a black-robed figure, completely enveloped in a loose black robe, making it impossible to see their appearance. Out of curiosity, Duan Ling Tian extended his spiritual power, intending to investigate the black-robed figure's details. However, before his spiritual power even got close, it felt like it plunged into a ball of cotton, with nowhere to exert force, young age, but good spiritual power. And at this moment, an incredibly hoarse voice suddenly came from Duan Ling Tian's ear, revealing a hint of coldness, clearly the voice of the black-robed figure. From the sound, it was an old man. Immediately, Duan Ling Tian broke out in a cold sweat. He was almost certain that this black-robed figure was another existence above the void transformation realm that I in just over half a year. Besides this black-robed figure, he had already encountered two void transformation realm experts head-on. The first was by Nanxiang of the Han Dynasty royal family, and the second was Zhao Kuan of the Zhao family in the Great Ming Kingdom. Both void transformation realm experts had two things in common. Firstly, both were at the first level of the void transformation realm. Secondly, both were dead. The former was killed by the mysterious talisman left by his father, Duan Rufa. The latter was killed by Su Li's master. Are we in the northern desert? Suddenly, a familiar voice entered Duan Ling Tian's ears. It was Feng Tianwu, who had awakened from her cultivation. Brother Duan, you're awake. Feng Tianwu smiled slightly at Duan Ling Tian, and soon, she saw the two flying demonic beasts in front, getting closer and closer. What are those? And at this moment, the two lightning vultures in front stopped. It was the black-robed figure behind who, by controlling the ninth-level void realm lightning vulture, easily intercepted the seventh-level void realm lightning vulture. The two lightning vultures stood in confrontation. Meanwhile, the azure-eyed giant eagle, carrying Duan Ling Tian and the other two, approached the two confronting lightning vultures. Lu San, do you really intend to exterminate us, siblings? The words spoken by the young man standing on the seventh-level void realm lightning vulture to the black-robed figure clearly reached the ears of Duan Ling Tian and the other two. Second young master, I am merely following orders. Please do not blame me. The eldest young master said that as long as you live, he cannot rest easy. The black-robed figure's hoarse voice then followed. That beast. The young man was incredibly angry but helpless, and he said in a deep voice, you can kill me, but I hope you can spare Pinger. She is innocent. Second brother, I won't leave you. If we die together. The girl beside the young man, though her eyes were filled with terror, her expression was extremely firm. Young as she was fearless. Second young master, I'm sorry. The eldest young master said that both you and seventh miss must die. The black-robed figure continued, his robes rustling in the wind. However, the black-robed figure did not make a move for the time being, because his gaze fell on the azure-eyed giant eagle, which was getting closer and closer to him, or more precisely, on Duan Ling Tian and the other two. Although Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tianwu both felt pity for the siblings and had compassion, they dared not act rashly. The black-robed figure was clearly an extremely terrifying expert, one whom even Feng Wudao might not be able to contend with. It was better if they didn't interfere. Once they interfered, they might even lose their own lives. They had no need to risk their lives for two strangers. Of course, perhaps Duan Ling Tian could use the talisman his father left him to kill this black-robed figure, but he only had two talismans left, and one less meant he would have one less life in the future. He wasn't generous enough to use such a precious talisman for two strangers. Unfortunately, sometimes things don't go as they wish. Stop. The black-robed figure let out a low growl, and a terrifying aura swept over. instantly enveloping the azure-eyed giant eagle, causing it to stop. Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tianwu's expressions changed slightly. Asterisk enveloped by the aura of a void transformation stage expert. The azure-eyed giant eagle dared not act rashly. It stood still, flapping its wings, and asked in a deep voice, "Esteemed sir, do you need something?" "Leave everything behind," the black-robed man's hoarse voice responded. Immediately afterward, he raised his hand abruptly, and in the void, Yuan Li condensed into 4 arrows that shot straight towards the azure-eyed giant eagle and the 3 people, including Duan Ling Tian. Standing on its back, the 4 arrows had barely appeared before Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tianwu's eyes when they completely vanished from their sight. They were too fast. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. For fleeting, piercing whistles, like muffled thunder, exploded in Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tianwu's ears, causing their expressions to change. A talisman appeared in Duan Ling Tian's hand, ready to be unleashed. Whoosh. Feng Wu Dao stepped forward, standing in front of Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tianwu. With a raise of his hand, vast Yuan Li swept out with his sleeve, effortlessly blocking the 4 arrows. Void transformation stage? The black-robed man had originally thought he could easily kill the 3 people and 1 beast with a mere raise of his hand. But he had not expected that there was a void transformation stage expert among the 3. It seems this old man misjudged. "The 4 of you may leave," the black-robed man said slowly, looking at Duan Ling Tian, the other 2, and the azure-eyed giant eagle. At the same time, the aura that had enveloped the azure-eyed giant eagle receded. "It's easy to invite a god, but hard to send him away. Has your excellency never heard that saying?" Feng Wu Dao said indifferently. "What? Does your excellency still wish to fight me? If I'm not mistaken, your excellency should be a top martial artist from one of the southern dynasties, correct? As far as I know, the strongest among those dynasties is only at the void transformation stage. 3rd level," the black-robed man said, his Yuan Li rippling. The next moment, above his head in the void, 400 ancient horned dragon phantoms appeared, coiling downwards, ready to strike. A void transformation stage. 3rd level expert. Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tianwu's pupils contracted. Possessing Yuan Li comparable to the strength of 400 ancient horned dragons was precisely the mark of a void transformation stage. 3rd level expert. "If your excellency leaves now, I'll pretend nothing happened. Otherwise, all of you will stay," the black-robed man said slowly after revealing his void transformation stage. 3rd level cultivation. Void transformation stage. 3rd level. However, upon seeing the cultivation displayed by the black-robed man, Feng Wu Dao's originally calm eyes lit up, and a monstrous fighting spirit surged from his body. Whoosh. The next moment, Feng Wu Dao stepped into the air, his momentum like a rainbow, and in an instant, he was not far from the lightning vulture beneath the black-robed man's feet. Whoosh. A sword cry instantly rang out, fleeting like a flash in the pan. The next moment, Duan Ling Tian, Feng Tianwu, and the brother and sister on the other lightning vulture all instantly constricted their pupils. The lightning vulture, originally controlled by the black-robed man, was split in 2. A void prying stage, 9th level demonic beast, was instantly killed by Feng Wu Dao with a single sword strike. As for the black-robed man, he had already left the lightning vulture when Feng Wu Dao drew his sword. Standing in the air at a higher position, looking down at Feng Wu Dao stood proudly, the sword formed by his condensed Yuan Li gradually dissipating above the void. The recently gathered heaven and earth phenomenon, the 400 ancient horned dragon phantoms, slowly vanished without a trace. Uncle Feng is also a void transformation stage, 3rd level expert. Seeing this scene, Duan Ling Tian's pupils couldn't help but constrict. Although he had long suspected that Feng Wu Dao might be a void transformation stage expert, he had never imagined that Feng Wu Dao would be a void transformation stage 3rd level expert. Such strength was far greater than that of Bai Nanxiang, the member of the great Han dynasty's imperial family, whom he had killed with a talisman. The strongest expert in the great Han dynasty should rightfully be his Uncle Feng. If only I had known how strong Uncle Feng was. I would have brought him along when I went to the Flying Rainbow sect back then. That way, I could have saved a talisman after the surprise. This was the first thought that popped into Duan Ling Tian's mind. Clearly, he was still reluctant to let go of the talisman he had used back then. That was his life-saving talisman. Soon, Duan Ling Tian noticed that Feng Tianwu's pretty face was also full of surprise, and he immediately realized that Feng Tianwu also didn't know about Feng Wu Dao's cultivation beforehand. You are not from those dynasties either? Seeing the cultivation Feng Wu Dao displayed, the black-robed man's hoarse voice subtly carried a hint of fear. Unfortunately, Feng Wu Dao completely ignored him, instantly disappearing from the sight of Duan Ling Tian and the others. Reappearing not far in front of the black-robed man. Whoosh! A fleeting sword cry rang out again, and Duan Ling Tian noticed that the black-robed man had also vanished from their sight. Both Feng Wu Dao and the black-robed man were void transformation stage, third-level existences. Once they moved, with Duan Ling Tian's current cultivation, he couldn't even capture their movements. Seeing nothing, Duan Ling Tian felt somewhat uninspired. Whoosh! 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 Above the void, fleeting, piercing whistles rose and fell out of course. These piercing whistles were not only caused by Feng Wu Dao's 3-foot-long sword. When the black-robed man attacked, he also took out a bow and an arrow, the bow whose quality was no less than the third-grade spirit sword in Feng Wu Dao's hand. Additionally, the arrow used by the black-robed man was also a third-grade spirit artifact. Because it was inscribed with a special inscription array, the arrow would return to his hand immediately after each shot, allowing him to shoot the next arrow. The black-robed man was the first martial artist Duan Ling Tian had ever seen who used a bow and arrow in combat. This weapon, rarely used by others, was wielded effortlessly in his hands, possessing extremely terrifying power. This could be seen from his ability to fight Feng Wu Dao to a draw. Unfortunately, his speed was too fast, and Duan Ling Tian could barely make out his movements when he attacked, only occasionally catching a glimpse of him bending down to knock an arrow. My current cultivation is still too low. Such a rare and intense battle, and I'm completely lost. It's truly a pity. Duan Ling Tian sighed. Duan Ling Tian's gaze, unconsciously, slowly fell on the young man and young woman on the other lightning vulture's back. The young man was watching the battle with great interest. He can see Uncle Feng and that old man's movements. Duan Ling Tian's heart skipped a beat, feeling somewhat incredible. Out of curiosity, his spiritual energy extended, enveloping the other party, attempting to probe his cultivation. This probe caused Duan Ling Tian's pupils to constrict involuntarily. Void prying. Void prying stage, 8th level. He couldn't help but be surprised, because this young man, who looked to be around 30 years old, was actually a void prying stage, 8th level existence. Even if he maintains his appearance well, he's at most around 35 years old now. Duan Ling Tian gasped. Among all the young generation he had met in his life, it seemed only that girl, Xuan Nai, could steadily surpass this person in martial arts talent. This little girl, she won't be a little pervert like Xuan Nai, will she? Soon, Duan Ling Tian used his spiritual energy to probe the young woman's cultivation, and was then astonished to find that the young woman was only a void glimpse stage. 2nd level martial artist. The gap in strength between the young man and the young woman was like a chasm, completely unlike people from the same world. Yet, these two were, coincidentally, siblings. Huh? Thank you. Suddenly, a hearty laugh reached Duan Ling Tian's ears, causing his expression to freeze involuntarily. As the voice was not unfamiliar to him, this hearty laugh belonged to Feng Wu Dao. Feng Wu Dao stood in the air, and above his head in the void, the power of heaven and earth surged again, finally condensing into more ancient horned dragon phantoms. First, 200 ancient horned dragon phantoms appeared, followed by another 140 ancient horned dragon phantoms. Uncle Feng broke through? Duan Ling Tian raised an eyebrow and murmured. The scene before him undoubtedly indicated that Feng Wu Dao had successfully broken through from the void transformation stage, 3rd level, to the void transformation stage, 4th level, during his battle with the black-robed man. The void transformation stage, 4th level. has 200 ancient horned dragons worth of power, more than the void transformation stage, 3rd level. This additional power, combined with the amplification from the 3rd grade spirit sword that Duan Ling Tian personally refined in Feng Wudao's hand, could further increase his strength by 140 ancient horned dragons worth of power. Feng Wudao's current strength had increased by a total of 340 ancient horned dragons worth of power compared to before. You actually broke through. The black-robed man's hoarse voice was filled with disbelief upon seeing this. You actually used me to achieve your breakthrough. Seeing Feng Wudao's eyes glinting with cold light, ready to strike at him again at any moment, the black-robed man said in a deep voice, "No matter who you are, if you dare to kill me, the Biling Lu family will not let you off."
Biling Lu family?
Feng Wudao said indifferently. "I've never heard of such a family among the various dynasties. So, you must be from an outer realm family." "Good that you know," the black-robed man said coldly. "Lu San, don't forget, you're just a dog slave of our Biling Lu family. A mere dog slave dares to bring up the family to intimidate others. How laughable." The young man on the back of the vulture raised an eyebrow and sneered. "The Biling Lu family, I've never heard of them. But I know that if I kill you here today, the Biling Lu family may not necessarily find out," Feng Wudao said slowly. Upon hearing this, the black-robed man's face instantly changed drastically. The next moment, the expression on his face completely froze. Blood flowed from a bloodied hole that appeared out of nowhere between his eyebrows at the same time. Feng Wudao's figure appeared like a phantom, following like a shadow in front of the black-robed man. The 3rd grade spirit sword in his hand slowly dripped with fresh blood. After Uncle Feng broke through, I can't even hear the sound of his sword strikes anymore. Duan Ling Tian's heart rate suddenly accelerated, and he deeply realized the terrifying power of a void transformation stage. 4th level expert. "Thank you, senior, for saving my life. Lu Beiming will never forget it." The young man on the vulture, pulling the young woman beside him, bowed respectfully and thanked Feng Wudao. Feng Wudao glanced indifferently at Lu Bai, then vanished from his spot, reappearing beside Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tianwu. "May I ask for your esteemed name?" "Senior, so Lu Bai may repay you in the future?" Lu Bai asked again. "No need," Feng Wudao said calmly. "Today, had that person not provoked me, I would have had no intention of saving you. Furthermore, the Yunshao continent is vast. It's unlikely we'll ever meet again, let alone speak of repayment." Having finished speaking, Feng Wudao looked at the azure-eyed giant eagle. "Qing, let's go." The azure-eyed giant eagle nodded, swept its wings, and shot forward. "Regardless, senior, Lu Bai of the Northern Ridge Lu family will engrave today's great kindness in his heart." Lu Bai shouted as he saw Feng Wudao about to leave the same time. His gaze shifted from Feng Wudao, sweeping over Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tianwu's faces. As if to deeply memorize their appearances, Lu Bai's gaze was extremely friendly, and Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but return a smile, watching the azure-eyed giant eagle disappear into the clouds from afar. Lu Bai finally came back to his senses, his eyes flashing with a cold light. "Lu Song, I originally had no intention of competing with you. But since you're trying to eliminate me, not only wanting to kill me, but also seventh sister, then I have no choice but to contend with you. Second brother, what kind of person do you think that senior was just now? Could they be from one of the southern dynasties?" The young girl beside Lu Bai asked curiously. "Possibly, or possibly not. Pinger, we should go." As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Bai looked at the lightning vulture at his command. The lightning vulture transformed into a streak of lightning and vanished into the vast expanse of clouds. "Congratulations, Uncle Feng." After the azure-eyed giant eagle had flown some distance, Duan Ling Tian congratulated Feng Wudao. Feng Wudao's breakthrough to the 4th level of the void prying stage was undoubtedly a cause for celebration. "Father, I never knew you were a 3rd level void prying stage martial artist. You kept it from me so well," Feng Tianwu said with a wry smile. Feng Wudao smiled slightly, but said nothing. "Father, how did you suddenly break through to the 4th level of the void prying stage?" Feng Tianwu asked. I was already on the verge of breaking through to the 4th level of the void prying stage. The battle with that black-robed man just now provided the catalyst for my breakthrough. In a way, I owe my breakthrough to him, Feng Wudao said. Feng Tianwu suddenly understood when that black-robed man displayed his 3rd-level void prying stage cultivation. Uncle Feng's fighting spirit surged. Clearly, at that moment, Uncle Feng had the idea of using the opponent to achieve a breakthrough. Recalling the scene just now, Duan Ling Tian was secretly amazed. After this battle, Duan Ling Tian clearly understood Feng Wudao, even among the 10 dynasties, was probably a top-tier expert. Only in the outer realm might he find an opponent. Time flew by like a white steed passing a crevice in the blink of an eye. Only 10 days remained until the start of the 10 Dynasty martial arts competition. On this day, Duan Ling Tian, who was sitting cross-legged on the back of the azure-eyed giant eagle, enduring the wind and rain, felt his true energy surge uncontrollably, like a ball of milky white flames. The next moment, these milky white flames trembled, as if undergoing some kind of transformation. Whoosh! Instantly, above the void, the power of heaven and earth surged, and then a celestial phenomenon appeared. 300 ancient horned dragon phantoms, winding down, looked magnificent at the same time. The milky white flames rippled, soaring into the sky again, seemingly transforming into a giant sword. Unfortunately, this giant sword did not last long as the 300 ancient horned dragon phantoms dissipated. The giant sword enveloping Duan Ling Tian instantly retracted, then transformed into a ball of flame and completely merged into his body. Almost simultaneously, Duan Ling Tian opened his eyes, and a faint sword gleam flashed within them, giving off a sharp, incisive feeling. 2nd level of the void transformation stage. Duan Ling Tian's eyes lit up. Although he knew the nirvana pill's potency was formidable, he hadn't expected it to be so powerful, helping him break through again in such a short time. And the subtle sword force. Not only that, through cultivating the 7th transformation of the 9 Dragon War Sovereign Art, the Sword Dragon transformation, Duan Ling Tian had taken a significant step forward in comprehending the sword intent. Having comprehended the subtle sword force, he was now just a step away from comprehending the sword intent. Monster. A voice reached Duan Ling Tian's ears, the voice of the azure-eyed giant eagle, breaking through 2 levels in just 2 months. As expected of the man Tian Wu fancies, Duan Ling Tian smiled awkwardly. Not bad. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian noticed Feng Wudao's gaze also sweeping over. His eyes filled with surprise as he looked at him. Tian Wu hasn't broken through yet? Duan Ling Tian's gaze fell upon Feng Tian Wu, who was sitting cross-legged and cultivating nearby. She broke through to the 1st level of the void transformation stage 3 days ago, Feng Wudao said. Duan Ling Tian was startled upon hearing this, and his spiritual energy couldn't help but extend. Immediately detecting Feng Tian Wu's current cultivation. It was indeed the 1st level of the void transformation stage. Without a doubt, Tian Wu's progress surprised him. After all, Tian Wu didn't have the nirvana pill. These 2 little monsters have already surpassed you from back then, the azure-eyed giant eagle said. Its words were clearly directed at Feng Wudao. Feng Wudao didn't mind. His gaze open and frank as he looked ahead. They are different from me. Even the 10 Dynasty martial arts competition is just a starting point for them. The entire Yinshao continent is their stage. Between Feng Wudao's words, he was full of confidence in Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tian Wu. Of course, the prerequisite for all of this is that Tian Wu can live past 30. Towards the end, Feng Wudao couldn't help but sigh. His daughter's fire spirit body had always been a source of worry for him. Uncle Feng, don't worry. Tian Wu is so kind. There will always be a way. Duan Ling Tian comforted him. I believe in that prophecy. Feng Wudao nodded. Duan Ling Tian was startled at first upon hearing this, then couldn't help but smile bitterly. He naturally knew what prophecy Feng Wudao was referring to. It was nothing more than the prophecy that he could help Feng Tian Wu overcome the tribulation at 30 years old. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, 3 sharp whistling sounds of wind came from all around. clearly reaching Duan Ling Tian's ears. Duan Ling Tian saw 3 flying demonic beasts, moving at an extremely fast speed in the direction they were heading. On the backs of these flying demonic beasts, more or less, stood some people. Among them were old people, middle-aged people, and even more young people. These should be representatives and young talents from various dynasties. The 10 dynasties alone have 100 young talents who qualify for the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts Competition, plus the representatives from each dynasty. With everyone gathered, there will certainly be many people, Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. Continuing forward, they encountered 2 more flying demonic beasts at the same time. A small black dot appeared in Duan Ling Tian's sight in the distance ahead. The small black dot continuously grew larger within Duan Ling Tian's field of vision, eventually transforming into a city that was getting closer and closer in the vast desert. Such a city stood there, giving no sense of incongruity, as if it was meant to be there. Great desert ancient city? Duan Ling Tian raised an eyebrow, guessing that the city ahead was their destination for this trip. It was also the place where the 10 Dynasty Martial Arts Competition would be held. What a huge city! Upon nearing the great desert ancient city, Duan Ling Tian was greatly surprised. The city before him, in terms of land area, was more than 10 times larger than even the capital of the Great Han Dynasty or the capital of the Great Ming Dynasty. Huge. It was too huge. This city looked extremely ancient, clearly having experienced a long passage of time. The city had no city gates, no guards, and anyone could move freely within it. Qing, go in, Feng Wudao said. Immediately, the azure-eyed giant eagle swooped down, speeding up, and in a flash, entered the great desert ancient city from the sky. The streets and alleys of the great desert ancient city appeared before Duan Ling Tian's eyes. Above the great desert ancient city, many martial artists flew through the air, and some flying demonic beasts also passed by. Here, Duan Ling Tian dared not recklessly use his spiritual energy to probe others. One wrong move, angering a powerful expert, and he would undoubtedly be in trouble. Feng Wudao, despite being a 4th-level void-prying stage existence, could dominate among the 10 dynasties. But in this outer realm, there were countless existences like Feng Wudao, or even more powerful than him, not to mention other places. Even within this great desert ancient city, there were probably many existences more powerful than Feng Wudao. Is this the great desert ancient city? At this moment, Feng Tianwu also awoke from her cultivation, curiously surveying the ancient city before her. Uncle Feng, where are we going now? Duan Ling Tian asked Feng Wudao. Kingwolf Fortress. Feng Wudao's gaze immediately fell on a vast stronghold resembling a palace in the distant northern part of the great desert ancient city. This place is even bigger than the imperial palace of the great Han dynasty. Feng Tianwu's autumn eyes narrowed, and she couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. The land area of this place is almost twice that of the entire capital of the great Han dynasty, or even the great Ming dynasty. Uncle Feng, what is this Kangwolf Fortress you speak of? Duan Ling Tian asked curiously. Kangwolf Fortress can be said to be the master of the great desert ancient city, a powerful outer realm force close to our 10 dynasty region. This 10 dynasty martial arts competition is hosted by Kangwolf Fortress. When Feng Wudao introduced Kangwolf Fortress, his expression became slightly solemn. This also made Duan Ling Tian deeply realize the power and terrifying nature of this Kangwolf Fortress, which completely surpassed the 10 dynasties. Go. At Feng Wudao's command, the azure-eyed giant eagle headed towards Kangwolf Fortress. As they approached Kangwolf Fortress, Duan Ling Tian could see that there were hardly any people or demonic beasts in the sky above the fortress. Those human martial artists and demonic beasts flying through the air would bypass Kangwolf Fortress from afar before even getting close. It was as if Kangwolf Fortress was some kind of monstrous flood or beast.